Welcome to Film Phreeks. This is Justin Llewellyn.
Eddie Williams.
And tonight we're going to be doing a review of one of a film that came out just over this weekend, which is The Predator, directed by Shane Black, written by Shane Black and Fred Decker, and stars Boyd Holbrook, Thomas Jane, Olivia Munn, and Keegan-Michael Key,
and then Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah. And this movie is the fourth installment of the Predator series, of the main Predator series. It's also basically the sixth one if you count the Alien versus... Or it's the... 2, 3, 4... 2.
Yeah, it'd be the sixth one if it's counted with AVP.
Yeah, that's right. It's the sixth one including the AVP series. And this one is basically... It's about a predator that comes to Earth after some stuff goes down, and basically an army, so a sniper that's in the army, he ends up finding this device that the predator is linked to, and basically he has it sent to his son when it was supposed to go somewhere else. And not really to go much too into detail because it's kind of hard to really explain. Basically, he has to try to get it back before his son does anything with it. Along with that, you have these other government officials that are looking for it as well. And you have Boyd Holbrook, who, if you remember from Logan, the main guy who plays the army soldier, he gets caught in. He meets up with these other soldiers that are basically on their way to a mental.
A mental facility, because they're pretty much, these are all ex-soldiers who've done bad things and are pretty much nuts.
Yeah, and basically they all have to come together to try to get the weapon, and then the Predator that comes there is looking for them and trying to get it back. Now, here's some backstory. Yeah. Now, I'm a big fan of the Predator franchise, beginning with the original 1987 one, and that film to me still holds up as one of my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and one of my favorite sci-fi films. And
yes, I agree with you on that too. And then along they came out with Predator 2, the one with Danny Glover, which today I find to be probably one of the most underrated films of the 90s.
Me too. It's definitely one of the most underrated sequels of all time, and I consider it as on par with the first film. And then 8 years ago, we had the third film, which was The Predators, which starred Adrian Brody, and I really enjoyed that one. Wasn't quite as great as the first two, but it was a quite welcome return to the franchise.
See, in that one, it took me a couple showings to get into, but overall, especially what I'm about to do with this one, I actually thought Freddy Rodriguez did a pretty good take on the Predator, because it was, if you guys remember, it was a different take. It was not about Earth. It was about being on their planet, and they were able to do all kinds of different predators, and we saw different dogs, we saw different creatures, and overall I thought the film was fun.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought, without having to rehash and keep doing the human on predator thing, on Earth thing, it was kind of a nice, a different take on the Predator universe.
Yeah. Now without
having to reboot.
Yeah.
The movie.
And then technically, if you want to there were also the Alien versus Predator films, which started with AVP in 2004, and then in 2007 with AVP Requiem. And if you listen to our retrospective of the Predator franchise, you'll know how fucking pissed off we were with those movies.
Oh yeah. And still to this day, I hold them both. The Aliens and Predator, I still hold the AVPs being the worst of both franchises.
Yes. And with this one, it actually really got me excited because I'm a big fan of Shane Black as a director and a writer, because he's made some of my favorite movies of all time, especially in the 90s, with Last Action Hero he wrote Lethal Weapon, the first one, and,
and that was what I was really looking forward to, because I know that he can write really good dialogue, and he's actually pretty funny with his one-liners. So, and then you got, if you guys remember, Shane Black was in the first movie.
Yeah, he played Hawkins in the first one.
So I was really looking forward to it. And if you guys remember, when the trailer started pouring out, that's where a lot of worrisome started happening.
Yeah, and because I remember when the first trailer came out, I wasn't really, it was giving me the same vibe like I felt with Solo, a Star Wars story, where it just felt so...
kind of let down, with the first trailer and the second trailer too.
Yeah, it wasn't until the last trailer they brought out that actually got me some hope. Like, okay, well, the only reason I'm kind of giving more hope is because this is something that Shane Black is known for, of his dialogue. So it could be pretty fun going with this approach.
Yeah, but going into the new Predator that came out today, I will say I am not pleased with what I watched. I'm highly disappointed in Shane Black.
Yeah, I would say that now this is probably one of those rare instances where me and him have a different take on our grades. But I will say that I was, I can't really say I was disappointed, but I will say that out of the franchise, this is definitely the worst.
Yes, and this is far worse for me. Like, it's still better than the AVPs, but this, as just a Predator alone, not counting AVPs, this is guaranteed it's the worst.
Yeah.
Out of the whole franchise.
Yeah. So to get my pros out of the way, I'll say that I do like some things that they do add to the universe of this, because we do get some at least a couple references back to the first two movies, and there's actually something that
I did like the references from the two films. And
I also enjoyed some of the things that you'll see. There is something that they use from Predators from the last movie that they do use in this one, which I thought was a cool setup as well. Mm-hmm. And I did like the way that we're seeing the way it for about the first two acts. I'll say it was actually filmed like an actual Predator film. Like, it kind of reminded me of the first one.
Yeah, the first two acts does feel like a Predator film. I will get in my cons in the third act, which I feel like it leaves everything knowing good about Predator films. It leaves its entire what it's for, what it stands for, Predator. But anyways, going back to some of my pros, like I said, like you said, you like the tie-ins they do with 1 and 2. I did like that too, and I think I can't be 100% sure. I'm gonna assume the part where they walk through the facility at that place where they got the original Predator stored, and the Olivia girl was kind of looking at the walls of like the past Predator stuff. Would you think that's possibly the stuff left behind from 1 and 2, especially when the guy hints in a scene where he has a picture of the Predator hanging off the building from part 2?
Yeah, that I really feel came from the first two movies. So yeah.
Yeah, so that was actually it was a pretty cool thing.
I also
I did like the design on the original Predator. I'll get into the fucking big one in a second, but as far as the original looking Predator, he looked good, and I like the practical suit he was wearing.
Oh, I did too, man, and like the way he designed it really reminded me a lot more of like the kind of like a combination of the Predators one from 8 years ago and a little bit of like the second movie, like the way his suit was designed, so which was cool. And I got to get my other pros out of the way. I will say that I did like the cast, like for the most part. I thought the team, this is kind of a pro and con. I like the team that's in the film. Like, I like their chemistry together, and I think that for the most part, with Shane Black's humor, it did have me laughing a few times throughout. But not to go into my cons yet, but the reason why I have kind of a con with it is because I feel like they deserve to be in a better film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's my issue with it. Now, I wasn't pissed off with the this is the crew that's kind of nuts and stuff. I thought I was going to be really bad. I thought I was going to really hate that group of guys. I wouldn't say I hate them, because they were actually pretty good. My only issue was the way they're written in this film. I just don't feel like it felt like it should be a part of the Predator franchise. I just feel like it sticks way out from the other movies.
Yeah,
and had you put this in more of a different original idea and fun, like something like, maybe something like Pacific Rim or something, just something totally different from Predator, I think this crew would be fun. And the comedy would work if you marketed a movie as a comedy. You can't market a Predator film as a comedy, like pure comedy. And that was one of my cons I'll get into in a little bit. But like I said, I'm not. I like the cast. the guys, but I just felt like if you gave them, like you said, better movie, then it would make more sense.
Yeah, because to me, I felt like I was more invested with the supporting team than I was with the main guy. Because the supporting team,
I'll get into my cons in a second on the main guy from Logan.
Yeah, but the reason why I get more into the supporting team was because I got more into their personality wise, and I liked where their characters were going, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
I did like the attempt. I can agree with you on the attempt where they were going, but where it went was so standard. I saw it coming.
Yeah, I know, but also the other thing I'll get to as well is because I also like the kills. I mean, for the most part, when we do see the Predator kill people, it does actually show some pretty good, like, I mean, there are times where, yes, it does get CGI blood, but for the most part, I think there were at least a few times where we see practicals, and they did work for me.
Yes, I'd say the first acts, especially where, like, the part where the Predator's fighting the dude from Logan in the beginning, where he's fighting his original group, there was some fucking pretty gruesome shit I don't think I've ever really seen in any Predator film. You know, like intestines, hearts falling out, and those were practical. I think it's a lot of the suffering of issues with, like, the gore and all that stuff being CGI'd. It doesn't come until the third act later in the film. That's when it becomes really fucked up.
Yeah, and
what they do, and I'll get into the cons in a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, the gore was pretty good in the first half.
Yeah, and the other biggest pro I have too is I do like the score they use. The score is very reminiscent of Alan Silvestri's score from the original Predator film. It's not the same guy who did it, but it is someone who does take similar cues from the original film, and I thought it did work pretty well with how they redid it.
I like that they brought the original score back, which was cool, and then sometimes they do the original score from the first movie that wasn't the main theme. That was pretty cool. There was actually a good 3 or 4 scenes that actually sounded like they attempted the movie trying to get its own score, which I appreciate. It's not trying to just ride on something else, another movie score. So they attempted to do their score, and that's where I have a con on. But them going back to the original scores, for the most part, was pretty cool.
Yeah, and my last pro I'll say is that the film does it does take some. I did like the main performances of, say, like Jacob Tremblay, because he plays basically a kid that has autism and stuff. I do liked how they were going. Like I said, the first 2 acts, I feel like the way they were going with some of these characters, I was on board with. And basically, there is also something cool, I will say, that they do in the end that does set it up for a sequel that I actually am kind of on board with. So
now I might get criticized for this pro right here, and because a lot of people have said they think that's what makes these Predator films been bad lately, but I'm gonna heavily disagree. I actually like the whole suburban setting. Not many people do. I actually would like it if it's done right. That's the problem. AVP Requiem tried it, and then this film tried the suburban setting, and I still think the suburban setting still works. I just don't think both films went with it right, what I think it should do.
Yeah, the same here. I felt
what
like
I'm trying to say, both attempts at the suburban thing failed, but it's not really the location. I like the location in this film still. The whole Halloween night. Now, that was a little disappointment because I was actually wanting to see more promoting the Halloween film, because I thought that was different and it was unique.
Yeah, I do too. I felt like if they would have went more,
they would have done it. Now, if you would have made the Predator film more slashered and just had like one Predator in it and just made it feel like more of a horror element, I think that would have been a great setting.
Oh yeah, definitely. I felt it would.
And I think that would probably been a better Predator film in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, some might not like that idea. I kind of think that's kind of a cool idea, because I just felt like what hurts the film the most, it tries to be every popcorn, family fun, Independence Day, Pacific Rim-ish feel to it, which we'll get into in a second, and I feel like that's where it hurts the film. That's what I did not like.
Yeah, that's the same here, and with my last pro, like I know I kind of discussed this earlier, going with the way the team was. There were moments where I did laugh based on the writing with Black's humor throughout the film. Now,
90% of it I didn't, but there was one that did make me chuckle, and the one with Thomas Jane, where he says Olivia Munn, or whatever her last name is. I can't think of her last name. What is it, Moon or Munn?
It's Munn.
Munn, okay. What he said to her made me laugh. That was probably the only time I actually really laughed. The other than that, there was a couple chuckles here and there, but that's going to be in my cons. What I'll tell you what I didn't like about that.
Yeah. So this is now where we pretty much get to our cons, and I'll say that I pretty much have a lot of the same problems that Eddie does, but to go into some of mine, the first thing I got to mention is the editing in this, I can tell, was a lot fucking choppy, because this is a film that...
Oh my god, this movie's editing was fucking atrocious.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot, because Shane Black, the way he's directed other films like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys, even Iron Man 3, he knows how to he knows how to get his movies like flow right. But this one takes a very convoluted story and really goes all over the place with it.
It does, man, because you have the beginning. I wouldn't say this is more of a spoiler territory at all. If it is, minor spoilers, be alert. But this film has this weird structure where, like, it feels very Star Warsy at the beginning. Then it goes back to the element we like, where it's in the jungle. Then the next scene, he's, trying to send the shit back to his home life. And then he's suddenly fucking arrested by these like CIA motherfuckers. Then the Predators just, both of them, the big one and the fucking little one, just suddenly boom, it's just dropped. And I just feel like there was like 30 minutes or 10 minutes or something of building up to that was just cut out.
Yeah, and this is where also it comes a problem.
It's all so fucking quick.
Yeah, and that's actually, I had to mention that because it's been reported that supposedly Shane Black actually had to reshoot like the third act 3 times because of poor test screenings, and you can tell that when it gets to the third act, it actually sticks out, because the third act is pretty much where, well, we won't spoil anything, but it goes into a different route that basically becomes a kind of an anticlimactic battle that takes place.
And that's true, and that's another issue I have is basically what he's trying to say is the big, for the majority of this film all the way into the third act, this film, that part and the third act feel totally like 2 different movies.
Yeah.
They do.
Because the third...
Like I was saying earlier, the editing, I was wanting to also mention with the editing was... that's another with the issues where I said they weren't flowing right. You had he was arrested all of a sudden, and then it becomes like a Halloween film with Jacob Tremblay, like a more suburban thing, and then it becomes a fucking comedy, and then it becomes like the tone in this movie is, it is chopped all over the place, and for the most part, one of my other big cons. This film's comedy overshadows everything.
It does. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a lot of Shane Black's humor than his other films, but to me, the way it's handled, it doesn't work well, because a lot of the time it's blended with scenes that don't go together. So, unless it's in a different film, this humor cannot work in this type of movie.
It can't, and it's overly shadowed. It is overly shadowed, and it eats up everything else in this film. Like I've seen other people complain, and I agree with them. It makes these guys are really not scared of what's going on. They're just having a fucking blast. I have a problem with that. I'm sorry. You can, it could be fun, but it can be done right. The Predator, the first movie, did it right.
Yeah, its.
Like, it was just a fucking watching Tammy throughout the whole film. And I will tell you that, for Shane Black and his one-liners that he's known for, and some of the fucking shit, like, like the comedic lines and all that, I was actually highly disappointed in his writing in this film, because a lot of jokes were so lackluster, and I felt like it was something I'd see out of a Melissa McCarthy film.
Yeah.
Even though I chuckled at some, it's just, for Shane Black, that's a big step down.
Yeah, that's part of the problem I have, because there are moments, like I say, I did laugh at, but there are a lot of the jokes that he does, that the characters do in this film that are, it's like dick joke, shit jokes, making sexual
Your
comments.
mom's pussy's ready to eat for everyone.
Yeah.
And then, like, they'll getting torn up, with their friends getting torn up, in pieces, all that stuff. And, they're seeing, guts. You're watching somebody you were really cool with fucking die in front of you, and they have enough time to throw a one-liner in. Come on now, Shane Black. Come on.
I know.
You can do better than that.
That's what I'm saying. And also, another problem I have is, I find, now this is kind of like something, going back to kind of some of the, going back to the beginning, while I enjoyed the rest of the supporting cast, really the two characters I didn't really care the most for was the main guy, Boyd from Logan, and I didn't really care for, well, the other one that really pissed me off was the main, like, guy who's part of the government facility. That dude's fucking...
Oh, that black dude, I think out of, if you named any cast member that probably annoyed me, was him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That
shit, he gave me a fucking headache.
Yeah. And the fact that he has, like, this weird tendency of always putting, like, Tums or whatever in his fucking mouth, I'm like, God, that shit's fucking annoying.
I know, smacking in the fucking screen. I just felt like between him and the guy that played in Logan, which I agree is another one I did not. In all honesty, I think out of all the Predator films, I think he's the worst lead.
Yeah.
Out of every one of them, I thought Adrian Brody was miles better than he was. But anyways, yeah. I felt like both of them suffer from being too full of themselves.
Well, it's not.
Way too.
I think it's more to do, like, on the main guy. I think the problem is more on the writing for him, because I do like the guy's performance all right. I just think the writing was really fucking bad, the way that his character was written.
I can tell you, if they would have went with a more if they would have went with a darker tone, he probably would have pulled it off.
Yeah,
I can agree with you, because I do like the actor, and for the most part, everything he plays in, I really enjoyed. So I would say probably the writing. I would agree with you on that. Yeah, Shane Black, his writing on his characters, the movie comes out as too over the top.
Yeah, and another problem I have is, going back to the girl, Olivia Munn's character, what confuses me, that this is a woman that's supposed to be a biologist in the film, but how is it that every time that she has a fucking weapon, she's actually, doing badass shit with it, and shooting?
That's the problem, and I'm going to mention something I didn't mention earlier. One of my issues I had, and I'll get to her in a quick second, I had a problem where, how the soldier guys just first meet each other, and they're getting to know each other? Isn't it weird that they suddenly know how to work together as a team so quickly?
Yeah, I did find that very convenient.
Like, they've been working together for many years and stuff. They're like, kind of like similar to the first movie, but at least in the first movie, you're led to believe those guys have been working together for many years.
Exactly.
They were doing that after meeting each other for like 2 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, Olivia Munn, I find it funny that they couldn't really specify what kind of biologist she is. Oh, I'm just a standard biologist.
Yeah, I mean, she takes samples and stuff.
Special? That's my problem. She doesn't hold any ground to what made her so special that the government came to her house, picked her out of a bunch, brought her to this facility, a place that you're not even supposed to know exists. And it's just like, oh my God, man.
And the biggest problem for me, yeah, exactly, I agree with you there. And the biggest problem for me, too, is the way it's all set up, because this all started because of the fact that you have the main guy, he ends up getting the technology, it somehow ends up going to his house, and it's all started because Jacob Tremblay ends up turning the device on. But if if anything, the dude should have just sent it to a more classified area. He shouldn't have sent it to his fucking house.
You know what? You can tell how lazy this film is by whenever at the beginning of the film, the dude from Logan had the little ball thing that makes him invisible. And, okay, if he can do that, couldn't he have done that the whole fucking movie and saved so much trouble? Maybe even brought the shit he stole from the first Predator and maybe go invisible and take it with him instead of, chances are. And that's another thing I had an issue with. When he mailed it to his ex-wife's house. He's not even with her.
Exactly. It made no fucking sense.
That makes no fucking sense. That's like me mailing something to my oldest son's mom I haven't been with in over 7 years, as if I fucking lived there.
Yeah.
That just makes no fucking sense. It's like a cop-out. Oh, I'm so lazy, I don't know how to write this, so I'm just going to say that's how it happened. And this whole movie, this whole shit storm happens because of a kid turn on a machine.
Yeah.
That's lazy writing. I'm sorry. I didn't really agree with how the Predators came back. I didn't like that.
Yeah, and plus also, no, here's some of the other issues that I can agree with you on, like really paying attention to. Okay, you've seen the trailers when it shows the big Predator that they introduce, which that would have been a surprising moment, but had it not been in the fucking trailers. But the first time you see the big Predator, it does look cool. But this is where we get to our other cons. The fucking CGI in this was really bad.
Oh my god, this CGI was probably one of my biggest complaints, and the reason why it's one of my biggest complaints, I'm not talking about it's Transformers bad CGI. I'm leaning towards the Mummy Returns with fucking the Scorpion King everybody laughs about and everybody iconically knows that didn't age. A lot of the shit in this film looks that bad.
Oh yeah, it does.
I couldn't tell how bad the CGI looked. It looked like something from Sci-Fi Channel. It was that poorly done. You had the fucking Predator films, you know that it can make the Predator's blood practical. We've seen it. We've seen it done practical all the time. This one does it computer generated bad.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
And I really think that's kind of goes back to how we said earlier. All this stuff that we're really, I mean, most of the stuff that I think comes into play, it really comes down to like the third act a lot, because most of the shit that when it goes down is leading to that film. Because this also happens where basically the main kid, there's actually something where it kind of goes into a direction, turns a 180 on us that feels really very underwhelming with this character.
Yeah, the part where like this kid becomes like this biggest asset to the government now, and then he plays a big asset with the Predator. The big Predator wants him, and he's like, you know how to speak our language. You understand our superpowers and our fucking technology, and you got him fucking putting in Predator codes, speaking in their language. And I get that they're using the term the Asperger's, if you guys know. People with Asperger's are known to be very smart, but I'm sorry, I do not buy it to that his disorder made him that damn smart.
Yeah, if I want to stick to a film where
dialect, and then at the end, like somebody said earlier, the ending, or especially when you see the kid working for the fucking CIA now and all that stupid shit, it makes it feel like a kid wrote that last act.
Yeah. And that was the other thing, too, we meant to say, is that there is minor spoilers in this, but we'll keep it to a minimum. But, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just, if you want a movie that does that plot better with the whole, a kid suffering from autism, and he has to, do, government-type stuff, watch Mercury Rising from the 90s with Bruce Willis. That movie there used a similar plot line with a kid like that, but they were still able to use it well with the story.
And the final climax where, you got them trying to jump on the big Predator ship so they won't take off with the kid and all that dumb shit. This is where it really reminds me of something you see out of Pacific Rim or the second Independence Day, where it's really CGI. You can tell that they're on a fucking green screen the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Especially when that part where the shield, the protective shield, so the Predator ship wouldn't get hurt being shot at. And then I didn't buy... Spoiler, this is a spoiler, so turn it off right now. This is it ain't a big spoiler, but it's kind of a spoiler. Did you really buy that a fucking person's body can take down a ship by jumping in the engine?
No, it's really hard to buy that.
Where the dude sacrificed himself, and because his body was able to... With this much technology the Predator has, I don't buy that at all.
I couldn't either, no. But... yeah, I mean, overall, there's more we want to go into, but I mean, that's really the gist of it. For me, I felt like you were saying, this was quite a step down from the other films, but I guess because I wasn't overly pissed off, and I really wasn't, it's pretty much everything I kind of really thought it was going to be, and because I did the first two acts a lot kind of better than you did, I feel like this movie was just very, forgettable at best, in my opinion.
See, it's forgettable, but I can't give them a pass. Like I would probably give this an average Joe on any other movie, just some standard fucking sci-fi fun movie. I probably would have gave this an average Joe. But this is the Predator. I felt like they strayed far from what the Predators are. I feel like this one sticks out like a sore fucking thumb compared to the other films. I was I wouldn't say I was terribly pissed, but I'm pissed at this film. I'm highly disappointed in it.
I hear you, man. Well, overall, I'm going to give the movie...
With that being said, I'm not going into much deep detail. I'm giving this a low disaster grade on my Film Freaks meter. I don't recommend this movie.
I'm going to give it a kind of a low average Joe on the Film Freaks meter. So, for those of you who have also seen the Predator and the other Predator films, and the Alien vs. Predator films, let us know in the comments below of what you thought about them. And also, feel free to check out our audio retrospective of the Alien and the Predator franchise if you get a chance to on here and on our website at filmfreaks.com. And we'll be seeing you in our next review. We'll see you later.
See you later.